Okay, so bringing us back to the lecture from week one, I just want to point out one thing here before I go on to today's lecture. Um, so basically, week one, we talked about all of this. Um, Last week, we talked about the case analysis template itself and about the Globus simulation. So now, for the next several weeks, we're going to be up here in the strategic analysis quadrant of the handbook model. So that's that. And to match up with your textbook, we talked about vision and mission last week or 2 weeks ago. Last week, we just, like I said, talked about kind of logistics of the class. Now we're going to go on to chapter 2, external environment. That's what we're talking about today. And then Wednesday, Friday, we'll talk about Globus, and that'll be our week. So here we are on chapter 2, the external environment. So what is an industry? Thoughts? Somebody tell me what you think an industry is. Yes. So, like businesses offering similar products, they have similar goals. I'm a big fan of industry information and where you can get it. How many people have heard of NAICS, NAICS codes? What are they?
They're just identifying codes for different industries.
Yes, exactly. So there is a website that you can go to. Are you familiar with NAICS.com? Okay. So there's a website that you can go to, all of you in here who are not Catherine, right? All of you in here who are not Catherine, there's a website called NAICS.com, which allows you to look up what the code is for the industry you're interested in. That's going to be really useful as we go forward in the class a little bit. So if you go to this website and then click on Find Your NAICS Code, you can type in the name of any industry here in the search box. So let's just say agriculture and submit. And it'll give you all kinds of codes associated with agriculture. So sea plant agriculture, farm labor contractors, farm equipment and machinery, farm and garden machinery, agricultural chemicals, etc. So if you look here at the list of, nope, that's not what we want. They've changed around the organization of the website. Here we go. So in general, NAICS codes, or NAICS codes, stands for North American Industrial Classification System, NAICS. They're organized by 2 initial digits and then a bunch of digits that come after that. So basically, everything that starts with 1-1 is in agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting. Things that have to do with the natural and things that have to do with living and growing things in the natural environment. 2-1 is mining, so that basically also is a natural environment, but a natural environment, but it has to do with non-living things and extracting stuff out of the ground, basically. 22 is utilities, so power, light, gas, things like that. 23 is construction, so on and so forth, all the way down. Now, not all construction companies are created equal. So if you actually click on construction, you'll see that New single-family housing construction is 236,115, or residential remodeling is 236,118. The full NAICS code is 6 digits. Um, the abbreviated codes start with 2 digits. And using those codes, you can find a lot of information about the industry that you're looking to research. So, um, first piece of information about industries there. A lot of these tables and so forth are searched on by the number here in the industry code. So we'll be using those NAICS codes going forward for different things. Industry characteristics. So they tend to have a common market size and growth rate. They have the same number of buyers. There's a certain finite number of buyers in any given industry. Buyer needs and requirements tend to be the same. The scope of competitive rivalry covers all the firms in a certain industry. Number and size of competitors is fixed in any particular industry at a given point in time. The degree of product differentiation defines an industry. So as products get increasingly differentiated, sometimes industries split up into multiple industries. But if there's only a certain degree of differentiation, that also defines an industry. Product innovation, the flip side of that, there tends to be innovation of the products in an industry is one of the key factors that defines the direction and growth of an industry. Production capacity, prevalence of backward-forward integration. We'll talk more about backward and forward integration in a couple of weeks. There's usually entry and exit barriers, so there's something that you have to do in order to get into a market in the first place, and sometimes there's things preventing you or making it difficult for you to get out of that industry. So those are exit barriers and entry barriers. Technological change tends to be another factor that characterizes all the firms in a particular industry. Scale economies or experience curve effects. The profitability, obviously, of an industry is an important factor to think about. Those are some of the main characteristics that define an industry. There's 3 tools in your case analysis that we're going to be talking about today in this lecture. And after we talk about the tools, I'll open up the template again and walk through how I want you to fill it out. So the first tool is driving forces. Driving forces are big picture issues that are defining how the industry is changing in the future. So especially how they reshape the industry landscape and alter competitive conditions. So the first thing you do in analyzing driving forces is identify things that are likely to. Joe, I want you to sit in a certain place, and I think you guys, he's in your group, right? Sit back there by Eduardo, okay? Or Jake, either side. So you're looking for things that are likely to reshape the conditions of competition in the industry. These are things that are likely to take place within the next 1 to 3 years, and you don't want to look at 10 different driving forces. You don't want to look at one. You're looking for maybe 3 or 4 that to identify that are really the key factors influencing the near future of an industry. When deciding which ones are the most important for the near future of the industry, you want to think about how they're going to impact the attractiveness of the industry. So are these driving forces going to make demand for the products in that industry go up or go down? Are the driving forces going to make competition more intense or less intense? Are they going to lead to higher or lower profitability in the industry? And then based on what factors you've identified, you want to determine strategy changes that are needed to prepare for whatever the impact of those driving forces is going to be. So we've got seven different types of factors that are all sort of determining driving, that are all types of driving forces. They're on the outside of this map. The inside of this map is what the industry looks like at any given point in time. The outside of this map are things that are going to change the industry over the next several years. So you've got economic factors, physical factors, sociocultural factors, global factors, technological factors, political and legal factors, and demographic factors. So, oops, wrong way. Couple examples of each of these demographic factors are things like population size, income distribution. Economic factors are things like inflation rate or budget deficits and surpluses at the macroeconomic level of societies. Political and legal issues could be antitrust laws, could be labor laws of one kind or another. Sociocultural attitudes about the quality of work life, shifts in work and career preferences of people in society, technological issues, product innovations, government and private spending on R&D expenditures. Global issues are things like political events around the world, newly industrialized or industrializing countries, and then physical factors, things like energy consumption, practices to develop new energy sources, availability of water, so environmental kind of issues. So that's the first tool that we're going to talk about today. I'll jump out of the lecture and go to the template now. So, like I talked about last week, everything we talk about in the lectures is linking in to some place in this template that I showed you that I want you to fill out over the course of the semester in your groups. So, in this case, we're going to scroll down a bit. And get to the external analysis part of the document and driving forces right here. So I want you to look, like I said, at the business challenges and trends and opportunities section of the First Research Industry Profiles database. You're going to read them, pick 3 that you think are the most relevant that are going to be impacting the near future of the industry, copy, paste, and footnote them. So, to give an example of how to do this, we go to csub.edu, go to the library database down here at the bottom, so just click on library. Then on the tabs here, click on databases. And your databases are all listed in alphabetical order here. So scroll down until you get to First Research Industry Profiles. Click on Go. And here you go. So you can either search on the name of the industry or the number of the industry. So if we want agriculture, for example, we could type in agriculture, livestock, agriculture and forestry sector, crop production, livestock production. Another thing we could do is go to the NAICS website and look at all the agriculture codes that we find, and wheat farming, corn farming, rice farming, other vegetable farming. Maybe we want to look at citrus farming in particular. So that's 111320. Another thing we could do is go to ProQuest again. We'll back up to the original 111320. And unfortunately, there's no report for that one. So there's not going to be a report for every single industry. There's only some industries that have reports in this database. So if you looked on citrus and that's too much, then maybe go back to just 111 and see what comes back. Well, that's too broad. So we'll go back to using the word agriculture in this case. You kind of have to play around with whether you use the number or the name of the industry. But we'll type in the word agriculture, click on search, and agriculture and forestry sector is a pretty good one to look at. So once you've done your search, you're going to identify one of these results that is the most relevant for what you were looking for. Open that up and read this report. So in particular, I want you to scroll down to the part where it says critical issues. So critical issues, business challenges, business trends, industry opportunities. I want you to read all of those sections and pick the 3 factors that you think are going to have the biggest impact on the future of the industry in the next couple of years. So if you think perhaps specialty crops and livestock is one of those things, then you're going to highlight the title specialty crops and livestock, copy and paste it here, and highlight all of this text, copy and paste it here, and then you're going to need to clean up the font of it because the return lines are all messed up when you copy from a PDF document to a Word document. So make that all uniform, and we want to have everything be Times New Roman 12. Do the same thing for the next 2. And then when you're done, you're going to use this information up at the top for the footnote. So references, insert footnote. First, research industry profiles. Agriculture and forestry sector, and I want the date. For 11/2016. There you go. That's what I want you to do for driving forces. Any questions about that? Yes, Derica. So you're going to start with critical issues and then business challenges, business trends, and industry opportunities. Got it? Okay, did you get that, Erica? Okay, cool. So next in our presentation here is Porter's five forces. So um, if I go back a couple of slides, driving forces are these issues that we just talked about on the outside of this map. And you can find them by looking in First Research industry profiles for your industry. Porter's five forces are five different structural factors that define any industry at a given point in time. And those are listed right here under industry environment. So Porter's five forces are the inner part of this box. And those may change over time, but at any given point in time, they're fixed for a given industry. So it's a very common framework for assessing the structure of an industry. And the five forces are, first of all, buyer power. How many buyers are there? In particular, how many buyers are there? And how high or low are switching costs for customers? So in general, the less buyers there are, the more power each of those individual buyers has. The more buyers there are, the less power those buyers have. However, if it's difficult to switch from one product to another, buyers tend to have less power, even if they are small in number. A good example is the switching costs of going between a PC and a Mac, or a Droid or an iPhone. They have slightly different operating systems. They have slightly different ways to do things. You get accustomed to using one, and it's hard to develop the habits of using another. So buyer power is the first of these five. Supplier power, similar concept. If there are not very many suppliers for your industry, they tend to have a lot of power. However, if your switching costs are low as the buyer, then even though there may be a few suppliers, they don't have as much power as they would have, because it's easy for you to switch from one to another. The threat of new entrants. So how easy or hard is it to get into the market? First of all, what is the cost of getting into the market? So, and then what is the bandwidth of availability in the market? The question is it attractive for a brand new company to try and get into the market that you're in? And the two questions are, how much does it cost, and how much space is there in the industry? So when you're talking about how much it costs, a good example is the aerospace industry. So I don't have it costs a lot of money to build jet engines and build airplanes. I couldn't just do that in my garage. But something like financial services, it's really cheap. All you have to really do is say that you're a financial advisor and start offering advice. There's no cost whatsoever to get into the financial services sector. So, but there's a whole lot of financial advisors out there. So if you are just one more getting into the industry, it's not very attractive, because there's not very much space for new competitors, because there's already so many. So even though the cost is low, the bandwidth does not exist for new financial advisors very easily. So those are the two factors you want to consider when thinking about how easy or hard it is to get into your industry. The threat of substitutes. Are there other products or services that could satisfy the same customer needs that your product does? And a good example of this is transportation. Air transportation is a substitute for truck transportation. So there's different ways to ship things between point A and point B. You can ship it with a train, you can ship it with a boat, you can ship it with a truck, or you can ship it with a plane. Those are substitutes for each other. They're not the same product, but they serve the same purposes for the customer. And then finally, Rivalry. How many competitors are there? First of all, the more competitors there are, the more competitive the marketplace tends to be. However, even if there are a few competitors, how content are they to split the market, or are they constantly trying to take customers away from each other? So, if you think about the internet search business, Google and Microsoft are really the only two games in town, and they could just say, hey, Google, we've got 75% of the market. Microsoft, you've got 25%. Let's just not fight, and we can be happy that we have the market all to ourselves. But that's not the case. Microsoft and Google hate each other, and they're constantly trying to tear the other company down. So it's not just how many competitors are there, but how devoted are those customers to competing against each other. So heading out, Joe? Yeah. Okay. So this is a map of how these forces fit together. The words are a little bit small, but you can find this in your textbook. Is the reason I leave it here. It's a good representation of how they all fit together. And to show you what to do with these Porter's 5 forces for your case paper, let me bring up the template again. Right down below driving forces is Porter's 5 forces, and just follow the instructions. Use the Business Source Premier database to find the blue market line report, not the white one. I'll show you what I mean here in a second. And then you're going to copy and paste things here. So if we go back to the library's databases, and instead of first research, we click on, of course, now Business Source Premier is not there. It's 10:47. Let me pause here. The library has rearranged their entire website, so I need to figure out where the database is that I want you guys to use. We'll pick up there on Wednesday. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. What's that? Where? Yeah. Yes. Great jersey. My favorite team. Love the Pacers.
I like the Pacers. Okay. What is that? My teammates?
Yes.
They have 3 members, but they were gonna take internet class. Does it have an internet class? I don't know. I mean that they don't have attend this class.
Well, 2 of them were approved to take it remotely.
Right. The chart
but
might be changed as soon as possible.
But the third one, Richard. Yeah, Richard. As far as I'm concerned, he's supposed to be here.
Okay, then I'll test him.
Okay. Yeah, I think he's supposed. I was planning on him being here. Abby is in Texas now, and Christopher is also out of the state, so that's the reason. Okay. Yeah. Yes. I'm listening. Just let me
I just enrolled
turn off the recording quick.
class last week.
Uh-huh.
I emailed you.